Hello everyone. Today's joke of the day is what do you call an elephant on hockey skates? Stay tuned to find out. Our learning target for today is I can solve equations with variables on both sides by using the distributive property and or combining like terms when necessary. Okay, so these problems are going to have a lot of steps, but we still just follow the same process that we did before. Okay, so for this one, we first thing we have to do is combine our like terms. Okay, so here, because we don't have parentheses, we don't need to use the distributive property at all. So we take our negative 7x and our negative 3x. Those are like terms because they both have a single x variable with them. If I took negative 7 minus 3, that gives me negative 10. So I end up with negative 10x plus 2 equals negative 8x minus 8. Okay, and now we just follow our same steps to if we had variables on both sides of our equation. So we want to move all of our variables to one side and all of our constants to the other. Okay, in this case, I'm going to move my variables to the left and I'm going to move my constants to the right. Okay, so the way I'm going to do that is to get rid of a negative 8x to make that go to 0, I'm going to add 8x to both sides. Okay, so now that negative 8x plus 8x gives me 0, and if I have 0 minus 8, that just gives me negative 8 on the left, or on the right-hand side. And then I have negative 10x plus 8x. Well, that would give me negative 2x. And we still have that plus 2. Now we can't combine those because they are not like terms. And I don't need to add my 8x to that 2 because, again, those are not like terms. Okay, and now we're going to move our constants over to the other side. So to get rid, the inverse operation of adding 2 is going to be subtracting 2. So I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides, and I end up with negative 10 is equal to, got to extend my railroad tracks here, is equal to, well, positive 2 minus 2 is 0. Negative 2x plus 0 is negative 2x. Okay, and then now I'm multiplying here, so the inverse of that is going to be division. So I'll divide by negative 2 on both sides. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 gives me 1x, or just x, is equal to negative 10 divided by negative 2 is 5. And now always I can check my answer by substituting 5 back in up here. So if I substitute 5 in for all of the x's, okay, on the left-hand side I'm going to have negative 7 times 5 is negative 35, minus 3 times 5, so minus 15, plus 2. Well, that's going to give me negative 35 minus 15 is negative 50, plus 2 gives me negative 48. Okay, let's see if that's what we get over here. Well, negative 8 times 5 is going to be negative 40, minus 8, negative 48. Okay, so it checks out. All right, let's look at the next problem. Here we see those parentheses, so we know we're going to have to use the distributive property on the right-hand side here. So we're going to take 8 and multiply it by both of the terms inside of the parentheses. So the left-hand side stays the same, so we're just going to rewrite that. Is equal to 8k plus 32. Okay, and now we do just like before, move all of our variables to one side, move all of our terms, move all of our constants to the other side. Okay, so this side time I'm going to move them to the right hand side. So I'm going to subtract 7k from both sides. Okay, because that's the inverse of adding 7k, so that will go to 0, and we'll just be left with 38 on the left. And then 8k minus 7k is 1k, or just k, plus 32. Okay, and then we want to subtract 32. Okay, we're going to isolate our variable then by subtracting 32 from both sides. We'll be left with k is equal to 6. Okay, and again, we can check that answer, but I'm not going to do that right now for sake of time. All right, let's look at this next problem. Now, there's a lot of things in here, but first thing we see is parentheses, so we know we're going to have to use the distributive property. So let's take this 4, and it's a positive 4, because there's that plus sign there, which is good. So we'll distribute our 4, multiply that by both terms inside the parentheses. So we don't do anything with that negative 8n, we just rewrite that. And then we take 4 times 1 is a positive 4, so we'll add 4. 4 times 5n is a positive 20, so we'll add 20. And that will be equal to, we'll just rewrite the right-hand side here, negative 6n minus 14. Okay, now, looks like I have some like terms on the left-hand side here that I can combine. I have a negative 8n and a positive 20n. So 20 minus 8 is going to give us 12n plus 4 equals negative 6n minus 14. Now I just want to move all of my variables to one side. And now I like having positive variables, so that's why I'm going to add 6. Well, here, let me draw my road tracks. I'm going to add 6n because then that will give me a positive number for my variables, and I'll get rid of that negative. That just makes it a little bit easier. So negative 6n plus 6n gives me 0. 0 minus 14 is negative 14. And then 12n plus 6n is 18n plus 4 equals negative 14. All right, now I'm going to move all my constants to the other side, which means the inverse operation of adding 4 is subtracting 4. So I'll subtract 4 from both sides. And we're left with 18n equals negative 18. Okay, and then final step will be to divide by 18 on both sides, because 18 times n inverses division. We're left with n is equal to negative 1. And again, we can check our answer by substituting it back in for all of the n's, but I'm not going to do that right now for sake of time. All right, one last problem here to look at. We see parentheses, so we know we have to use the distributive property. So we'll take 4 times negative 8x is negative 32x, plus 4 times 5 is 20, equals negative 32x minus 26. All right, so now move all of our variables to one side. So I'm going to add 32x to get rid of it on the right-hand side, move it over to the left-hand side. Okay. But this looks like a little tricky because negative 32x plus 32x on the left here, that's going to give us 0. So we'll be left with negative 26 is equal to, well, negative 32x plus 32x is also 0. Plus 20 gives us 20. Okay, this is a case where we end up with a special solution. Okay, because 20 is not equal to negative 26, this equation has no solution. Okay, there are no values for x where this equation will ever be true. Okay, so no matter what number you try for x, there's no way that you will ever get the left-hand side to equal the right-hand side, which means we have no solution. All right, finally, in summary, we are going to summarize all of our steps, okay? So the first thing, if we're solving these multi-step equations, especially with variables on both sides, distribute if necessary. Okay, use the distributive property. Okay, the next thing that we do is combine like terms if we have them. Okay, and now if there's variables on both sides, our next step is to move all the variables to one side. Or just move the variable to one side, okay? By adding or subtracting, just like we did. And then we want to add or subtract any constants to the other side. So those are just those numbers without a variable. And then finally, we just will need to multiply or divide to completely isolate our variable. Okay, so make sure you have those steps written down and you can refer to them later. Now for today's joke of the day. What do you call an elephant on hockey skates? An icebreaker. Thanks for watching and have a great day.